For my mythological video, I got the Roman god Mars. And Mars is the Roman god of war, as well as a few other things, but they're not as important. He was seen as the second most important god within the Roman pantheon, only second to Jupiter. And he's also the father of Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome. And that's the story we're going to focus on today. The first thing that we need to know for the story of Romulus and Remus is that it actually begins in an ancient Greek city that is assumed to be around the 800 to 700 BC range. Our main characters are all from this small Greek town, and most of the story takes place in this town, except for what eventually became modern-day Rome. So before we get into the story, we should talk about the major characters. So you have Romulus and Remus, who are the twin brothers that are the main characters of the story. They are sons of Sheba and eventual founders of Rome. You have Lupa, the wolf goddess that saved the twin boys and raised them to hunt and other lessons that they used. You have King Emilius, who is the father of Sheba and was the king of the small town they were all from. You have Mars, who is their father and the god of war. You have Sheba, their mother, and she doesn't really play much of a role other than that. And King Numitor, who is the guy that is trying to become king of this small Greek town. And he is also has a birthright to the throne. So, the story of Romulus and Remus begins in an ancient Greek city where a princess named Sheba goes into a sacred grove of Mars and somehow becomes pregnant. The night after the twins are conceived, she has a dream of two tree sprouts that both start to grow, but one eventually grows until it takes up most of the known world. When her father Emilius finds out she is pregnant, he became worried that the kids would eventually kill him and take the throne from him, so he orders Ray and the kids to die, but Ray instead abandons them on the Timber River. They eventually flow down the river until they get to the wolf god Lupa, who is reportedly sent by Mars. And she takes the boys in. She raises them and teaches them some life lessons, until eventually she leaves them with a sheep herder. They grew up to be natural leaders, which is seen as a gift from their father Mars. And eventually they were involved in a political dispute that involved Emilius and his enemy Numitor. As a result from this political dispute, Remus was taken prisoner to Emilius' kingdom, and Romulus had to gather a group to go and save Remus. But in the process, their grandfather convinced them to join him in his fight against Numitor. Eventually, Emilius gets killed, and Numitor kicked the twins out of the city, claiming kinship for himself, and stripping the boys of their birthright. From this, they set off to build their own city/kingdom. When they eventually found a place to make their city, the boys disagreed about where to put it, and they thought the city should be on different hills. The brothers asked the gods to send them a sign of where to put the city. Both ended up seeing auspicious birds. Remus saw 6, but soon after Romulus saw 12, and they argued more and more, and eventually they ended up fighting, which led to the death of Remus. But since Romulus won, he eventually founded the city of Rome on the hill he chose, and the rest is history. The hero of our story would be Romulus, as he was willing to do anything for Rome, including killing his own brother. And he is also a great example for what a Roman man should be. He was a great leader, and he was absolutely fearless to challenges. One of the mentors in the story was Lupa, as she raised the boys and helped them learn skills of hunting and fighting. The other mentor would be Mars, as he gave them the gift of leadership and sent Lupa to save the boys. The next archetype would be the Threshold Guardian, which I think Remus fits the best, as Remus isn't the bad guy within the story, but he has to be saved, and he also is the thing Romulus has to overcome eventually to make his new city. The herald within the story would be Sheba's dream, as she predicts the end of the story within this dream and eventually Rome's prosperity. The next archetype is the Shapeshifter, which I think best fits King Emilius, as at the start of the story, he clearly hates the boys and makes them go away because he thinks that they're going to kill him. But when they come back later in life, he needs their help and actually treats them pretty well. The shadow of the story would be King Numitor, because this guy is trying to stop Romulus and Remus from achieving their kingdomship. And eventually, he even kicks them out. I think he is actually a great example for what Romans hate. They hate people that are all focused on birthright, and they also hated people trying to stop Rome from prospering. While the story didn't actually have a trickster, it did have a woman of power, which would be Lupa. Even though she's a wolf, she still breaks some human stereotypes that we have for women, as she is the natural leader and she teaches these men how to do their eventual jobs, and she even trains them to be a lot stronger than they were. Since we have all that information, we can start to make generalizations about the culture. So, what can we learn about this culture? Well, we can learn that Romans sought strong men, and it was expected that people were willing to fight to the death for their country. Why did they make the story? Most likely to give themselves an origin story that also encourages the ideals that they sought, as well as the example of someone risking their life for Rome. What does the story teach them? Well, it teaches them that others will try to stop their country, and it is a job of a Roman to save it, including putting their own life on the line. What happened to cause the story to be made? Well, Rome was likely at war with somebody, and they needed people to join in the war effort. They likely wanted men to feel encouraged by the story and okay with the idea that they might die. The best values that the hero has? Well, Romans encouraged and loved natural leaders, and they loved the idea of Rome. What should they avoid? They avoid weak people that are willing to make sacrifices for Rome. And what were most people like then? I personally would guess that they were a warrior society that had strong love for their country, and that they were the kind of people that would put their country over everything. They likely also loved strength and power of their people. From what I can assume, based on the story, they didn't care where they came from, like being the son of someone powerful, but rather what you can do for your country. And I think this is an example of the boys getting stripped of their birthright, and then them building a country on their own. So that's the end of my video. The resources I use should be scrolling across. So if you're wondering why I changed clothes, it was so I could tell which clip was which. And if there's any noises, it's the fan that I have next to me, or the cat running around. And yeah, thanks for watching.